Hello everyone, welcome back to Yarns and Friends. I am Kay, and for today's video, I'll be sharing with you how to crochet the SEIRA top. If you prefer a written pattern for this design, my pattern shop links can be found below this video. And without further ado, let's start. To begin, make a slip knot and chain 15. This is for all sizes. Now on the 6th chain from hook, work a shell stitch. To make a shell stitch, 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet on the same chain or stitch. Next, skip 2 chains and work double crochet on the next. That will be our first post. Next, skip another 2 chains and work a shell on the next. Then we'll finish our first row with a skip 2 and a double crochet on the very last chain. For our row 2, begin with chain 2, flip your work, that will be our first double crochet. Then on this chain 1 space, work a shell stitch. Then next, on this post from previous row, work a front post double crochet. Then next, shell on the next chain 1 space and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain space from previous row. Now for row 3, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first chain 1 space, then on this post, work a back post double crochet. Then another shell on your next chain 1 space and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. Then after this, for row 14 to 13, work repeats of pattern from row 2 and row 3. After 13 rows, it should look like this, and for taller persons, repeat until it stretches from your shoulder to underarm level. Make sure to end with an odd row. For row 14, we will now start our increase, and to begin, chain 2, flip your work, make a shell on your first chain 1 space, then on this post, work a front post V stitch. To make a front post V stitch, front post double crochet, chain 1, and another front post double crochet on the same post. Then next, make a shell on your last chain 1 space and finish the row with a double crochet from the chain 2 space from previous row. Now for row 15, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first chain 1 space, then on this first post, work a back post double crochet. Then V-stitch on this chain 1 space, and another back post double crochet on the next post. Then shell on your last chain 1 space and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. Now for row 16, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first chain 1 space, then front post double crochet on your first post, and another shell on this next chain 1 space, then front post double crochet on your last post, and finish with a shell on the last chain 1 space and then double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 17, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first chain 1 space, back post double crochet on your first post, and then repeat this pattern till the last shell, and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 18, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first chain 1 space, then on this first post, work a front post V-stitch. Then shell on the next chain 1 space, and another front post V-stitch on this last post. And last shell stitch on this last chain 1 space, and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 19, chain 2, flip your work, and make a shell on your first chain 1 space, This first post, work a back post double crochet, just like in this part. Then V-stitch on the chain 1 and another back post double crochet on the next post. Then shell on this next chain 1 space. Then on this V-stitch, we'll just repeat what we did on the first one, which is a back post double crochet on the first post, V-stitch on the chain 1, and then another back post double crochet on the next. After that, shell on the last chain 1 space and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 20, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first chain 1 space, front post double crochet on your first post, and repeat this pattern across. After that, it should look like this. Row 21, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first chain 1 space, and then a back post double crochet on your first post. Then repeat that across, and then finish with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 22, chain 2, flip your work, and for this row, on this first and last post, you will just repeat the same pattern of this V-stitch. Then in the 2 center post, just a normal front post double crochet. So the end should look like this. V-stitch is only on the first and last post. For row 32, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, then next on this V-stitch, we'll just repeat the same from here. So we'll work a back post double crochet, and then a V-stitch on the chain 1, and another back post double crochet on the next post. Then continue with the shell on every chain 1 space and a back post double crochet on every post. Then on the very last post, repeat the pattern of the increase. So the end should look like this. Now for row 24, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, and then a front post double crochet on your first post, and repeat that pattern across, and then finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 25, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, and then back post double crochet on your first post, and repeat that across, and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For extra small to small sizes, we will stop increasing on row 26 and we will just repeat patterns on row 24 and 25 until your desired length. But for larger sizes, you may want to keep repeating pattern on row 22 and 23 until its width stretches a quarter of your bust level circumference, and then you must end with an odd row and continue with the alternate of pattern on row 24 and 25 until your desired length. It should look like this, and then make 2 of this with the same total count of rows. So my sample here stretches 35 centimeter long. After making 2, we will now start making the back panel. So to start, attach your yarn on this part. Then chain 2, skip 2 and shell on the next. Next, on this post, work a front post double crochet and skip another 2 chains and shell here. After that, skip the last 2 chains and double crochet on the very last stitch. After this, we will now make chains to connect it to the other panel, and to determine your count of chains, count your total shell row from your front panel, lessen it with 1 and then multiply it by 6, and then less 2 again. For example, I did 7 shells, so 7 less 1 will be 6, and then multiply the answer to 6, that will be 36, and then lessen it again with 2, so total chains will be 34. I will put the formula on screen. Then after making your chains, continue to the other panel, work a double crochet on the chain 2 space or on the corner, shell on the 3rd chain, front post double crochet on this post, then skip 2 chains and shell on the next, and finish the row with a double crochet on the last stitch or chain. Then for row 2, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, back post double crochet on this first post, shell on the next, chain 1 space, and then double crochet on this stitch. Then on these chains, we will work an alternate of skip 2, shell on the next chain, skip 2 and then double crochet on the next. Repeat this across the chains. After that, it should look like this, and to continue with the row, double crochet on this first stitch on the other panel, and then shell on the chain 1 space, then back post double crochet on the last post, shell on the last chain 1 space, and finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space. Now for row 3, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, and then front post double crochet on your first post. Repeat this across and then finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 4, chain 2, flip your work, then shell on your first, chain 1 space, and back post double crochet on your first post. Repeat this across and then finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. Now for row 5 to row 13, keep alternating pattern in row 3 and 4. If you added extra rows on the front panel, make sure to add the same number of extra rows here on the back panel before starting to increase. For row 14, we will now start to increase. To begin, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, on your first post, work a front post V-stitch. Then shell on your next, chain 1 space, and a front post double crochet on your next post. Repeat shell and a front post double crochet until you're second to the last shell. Now here on the last post, work another front post V-stitch. Then shell on the last, chain 1 space, and finish the row with a double crochet and a chain 2 space from previous row. Row 15, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, then on this V-stitch we will repeat the same pattern here. So on the V-stitch, work a back post double crochet on the first post, a V-stitch on the chain 1, and then a back post double crochet on the next post. Then next, shell on the chain 1 space and a back post double crochet on the next post. Repeat the shell and back post double crochet until you're second to the last shell. Then on this V-stitch, do the same pattern we did on the first one, and then finish with a shell on the last chain 1 space and a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. Now for row 16, chain 2, flip your work, shell on your first, chain 1 space, and a front post double crochet on your first post. Repeat the shell and front post double crochet till last, and then finish the row with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 17, chain 2, flip your work, and then alternate shell on every chain 1 space and a back post double crochet on every post. Finish the row with a with a double crochet on the chain 2 space from previous row. For row 18, repeat pattern on row 14, and for row 19, repeat pattern on row 15. For row 20, till the same count of rows of the front panel less 1 row, alternate pattern on row 16 and 17. For larger sizes, repeat the total count of increased rows you made on your front panel so it will have the same length. Then continue with row 20. For connecting the two sides, facing the wrong side of the top, work 2 single crochets on each side of the rows, starting at the bottom till your last row of V-stitch, or to your preference if you think the hole is too wide. Vice versa on the opposite side. After that, it should look like this, and this side should be on the inside of the top. After that, the two sides should look like this. After that, turn the top inside out again and facing the right side of the top, attach your yarn on the bottom corner of the front panel, and then work 2 single crochets in each side of the rows around and single crochet in each chain along the neck. Then from here to the other corner, we will work our last row of shells. So here's how you will work your 2 single crochets in each side of the rows around. So here on the last row of shell stitch, work on this first stitch, work a single crochet and a half double crochet, then double crochet on the next stitch, and on the chain 1 space, work 3 double crochet picot and another 3 double crochet. To make a picot stitch, chain 3 and slip stitch on your first chain. Then double crochet on the next stitch, and on the last stitch, half double crochet and a single crochet. Then on every post, work a front post single crochet. Repeat the shell and front post single crochet pattern across. After your last shell, it should look like this, and don't cut your yarn yet as we will work with our final edging and straps. For our final edging, we will work single crochet in each stitch around here, and then on this part, just parallel to the last V stitch, we will work our straps. Here we will just work with single crochets in each stitch until we reach the part where we will work our strap. Now here, just above the increase or the last V stitch, make a chain of 120 or longer for larger sizes, and slip stitch each chain all the way back, and then continue with the single crochet until you get to the opposite side and work your second strap. Adding a bead at the end of the strap is optional. After your last single crochet on the opposite side, cut your yarn and secure. For the armhole edging, just attach your yarn anywhere and then work 2 single crochets in each side of the rows, and then on the final edging, work 1 single crochet in each stitch, and then secure your yarn. And just like that, we're again done with our tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to click the like button and notification bell, and of course subscribe if you want more free tutorials like this. Thank you for watching.